There's a lot to love in Far Cry 5. There's a cougar called Peaches, there's a bear called Cheeseburger, there's a dog called Boomer. I think this bird's name is Gary. That Wolverine's name was Fuckwit Dickbag. Why am I talking about the animals? Because the people in Far Cry 5 just don't feel real. This fish's name is Hideo Kojima. Far Cry 5 started its life in 2014, and the world was a very different place back then. I could go through my day without hearing words like Nazi, or militia, or secret piss tape. So when Ubisoft started making their game about the rise of a charismatic megalomaniac who empowers parts of America who feel like they've been forgotten, it probably seemed like something completely outside the realms of possibility.
Wrong.
After the opening cutscene, which is genuinely confronting and scary, I was ready to be repelled by this cult, or perhaps even more worryingly, seduced by them. Far Cry's America should be disturbing, a warping of our day-to-day life that cuts a little too close to the bone. Instead, things just kinda seem the same, except everyone has a gun and occasionally I get shot at. Like I said, same old America. What follows is a game that never explores its own wonderful setup. The game's antagonist, Joseph Seed, talks a lot about how some will wish to harm us and they do not believe and I will make them see. See what? Believe what? He's carved an unhealthy amount of religious nouns into his chest, and the whole county seem to have their radios tuned to 106.4 FM, the home of creepy Christian choral arrangements, but it doesn't have the ring of authenticity. Like the game, Seed plays with the imagery and vocab of the extreme, but it all feels like a cliched act. He got a hand-me-down copy of Cult Leaders for Dummies, but someone ripped out the chapter Define Your Cause. The only thing I know for sure about Joseph's belief system is it involves a healthy fear of covering one's nipples.
Because society is broken. And the only way forward is to go back to the way things once were.
Shirtless. And I guess that makes sense because Joseph's ideology, and by extension the game's story, hedges its bets. It doesn't want to isolate any potential player by coming down hard on religion, racism, sexism, big government, little government, gun control, doomsayers, fear of the other, fear of Big Brother, fear of your mama, preppers, the South, the North, the Midwest, North by Northwest, the alt-right, the soft left, the gooey center, the religious community, the atheist community, Dan Harmon's community, or rednecks. So if you won't define who our attackers are, what are we fighting to save here? What was Hope County before the cult took over? What has Seed seen in its citizens that he can manipulate to his own end? Because these cultists aren't racist, they don't seem homophobic, sure they're religious, but it kind of feels like they're I only go to Christmas mass religious. In fact, I would go so far as to say these are some of the nicest, most reasonable and tolerant murderous cult members I've ever seen. You could argue that it's satire, but it lacks insight, and any humor is reserved for the side quests. There's the action movie director who needs quiet on set, so you go shoot everyone who's making noise, and a flamethrower-toting redneck who is living his best life in a trailer park. It's the incidentals that come closest to commentary. Compare that to Wolfenstein 2, whose entire campaign is a satirical takedown of a political agenda in the most entertaining, hilarious, terrifying, poignant, rock and roll way. Compared to that, Far Cry 5 is toothless. And when I say it needs teeth, I don't need it to have liberal teeth. It can have right-wing teeth. It doesn't need to make an overly political statement, it just needs chompers. In fact, there's a fascinating tale to be told here about the 1,000 tiny cuts a society can die from, and an arguably more interesting story is one which ends where Far Cry 5 begins, where your actions as the outside force coming into this area to bend it to your own will is the straw that breaks the downtrodden of Hope's County and pushes them, finally, into the arms of Joseph Seed. And his nipples. It's not about pushing a political agenda, it's about telling a story that goes beyond the most surface level. And while not every game narrative needs to be reaching for the stars, it feels like Far Cry 5 maintains the series' most disappointing feature, setting up a huge amount of story potential, then leaving most of it on the table. I just want Far Cry to live its best life.
Yeah, Charlemagne's my name. You know who I'm named after? No, not some old king or a New York City DJ or nothing. I was named after my uncle. Yeah, he won a bet with my old man. My old man said that if my Uncle Charlie got a boob job...